A young girl shows up at a stranger's door, drenched in rain, bruised, and terrified. He lets her in without knowing. She's the missing daughter of a billionaire. What happened next shocked the entire city. It was raining hard that night. Not just a light drizzle, but the kind of cold, relentless downpour that echoes off rooftops and makes the whole world feel heavy. The streetlights flickered through the storm, and puddles formed little rivers along the sidewalk. Inside a small, worn-down home on the east side of Detroit, Jerome sank into his creaky old recliner. He let out a tired sigh. Another long day at the garage. His boys were asleep, the house was quiet, and for a moment, he finally felt peace. Then, 3 sharp knocks that Jerome's eyes snapped open. He wasn't expecting company. Not this late. Not in this weather. That he rose slowly, careful not to wake the boys, and moved toward the door. Another knock. This time softer, almost like a plea. He opened it. Standing on his front porch was a young, white girl, maybe 15 or 16, soaked to the bone. Her blonde hair clung to her face. Her lips trembled from the cold, and her arms were crossed tightly over her chest. She had no coat, no umbrella, and not even a backpack. But it was her eyes that caught him. Wide, afraid, bruised. "Please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need somewhere to stay. Just for one night. Please." Jerome's heart tightened. His instincts screamed to be cautious. This was Detroit, and you didn't just open your door to strangers. Especially not when you're a single black father raising 2 young boys alone. But something about her felt different. The way she avoided eye contact. The quiet desperation in her voice. The bruises near her jawline that looked fresh. He looked back once at the hallway where his boys slept. Then, against every rule he'd made for himself, he opened the door. "Wider, come on in." Inside, the warmth of the house wrapped around her like a blanket. Jerome gently shut the door behind her, but the storm still raged outside, wind howling through the cracks in the window frame. The girl stood in the hallway, dripping wet, her arms trembling, not just from the cold, but from something deeper. Jerome didn't ask questions. Not yet. He just nodded toward the couch. "Sit. I'll get you something warm." He went to the kitchen and returned with a steaming bowl of chicken soup. As she sipped it with both hands, her eyes darted around the living room, framed photos of 2 smiling boys, a dusty bookshelf, a worn-out rug with a toy car tucked under the corner. Jerome returned with a towel and a pair of dry clothes. "They belong to my daughter," he said quietly. "She passed 2 winters ago." The girl looked up, surprised. "I'm sorry," she murmured. He simply nodded and showed her to the bathroom. Meanwhile, his 2 sons, Zion and Malik, peeked around the corner, whispering, "Who is she? Is she in trouble?" She looked scared. Jerome hushed them gently. "Let her be, boys. She's just a guest tonight." Later, dressed in an oversized hoodie and warm pajama pants, the girl sat quietly on the edge of the couch. She hadn't said much, but when Zion asked, "Where's your family?" she froze. Her voice came out small. "Nowhere. I'm Emily." That was all. Jerome didn't push. Instead, he led her to the spare bedroom. It wasn't much, just a creaky twin bed, a little nightstand, and an old lamp with a flickering bulb. But when she stepped inside, her eyes welled up. She turned to him and whispered, "Thank you." He smiled gently. "God bless you, child," and closed the door behind her. The next morning, everything changed. Jerome was making scrambled eggs when he noticed the sudden flicker of red and blue outside the kitchen window. He stepped onto the porch with a confused frown and froze. .2 police cruisers. A pair of unmarked black SUVs. Uniformed officers talking into radios. Neighbors had come out, whispering and pointing toward his house. That Jerome's stomach dropped. Before he could process it, 3 sharp knocks rattled his front door. He opened it slowly. 2 officers stood there, one in uniform, the other in a sleek black coat with a badge around his neck. "Sir," the agent said firmly, "we're looking for a girl. Blonde. Mid-teens. Name's Emily." Jerome blinked, heart racing. She's here. Is she in some kind of trouble?" The officer glanced at his partner, then softened his voice. "No, sir. Not like that. She's not a criminal. She's been missing." Jerome felt his pulse quicken. The man continued, "Her full name is Emily Whitmore. She's the daughter of Charles Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Enterprises." Jerome's eyes widened. That name wasn't just familiar, It was legendary. A billionaire featured in Forbes, with buildings named after him. The kind of man whose face appeared in financial magazines, not in the lives of people like Jerome. She's been gone for 3 days, the agent explained. We've had the entire city on alert. News coverage, drones, search dogs, the works. Jerome looked toward the hallway where Emily still slept, completely unaware. The agent lowered his voice. How long has she been here? Since last night. Jerome replied quietly. The officer's tone shifted to admiration. Then you might have just saved a very important girl. But to Jerome, she wasn't important because of money. She was important because he saw pain in her eyes and opened his door anyway. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us of the goodness still left in this world. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next one. Thanks for watching. And remember, one act of kindness can change a life forever. Emily stepped out of the room slowly, rubbing her eyes and clutching the sleeves of the hoodie Jerome had given her. When she saw the flashing lights and the line of officers, her face paled. But then she looked at Jerome, and something in her softened. She walked up to him, wrapped her arms around him tightly, and held on like he was family. With trembling confidence, she turned to the officers and said clearly, "This man saved me. He didn't ask who I was. He just cared." The officers exchanged glances. One of them nodded respectfully at Jerome. Later, after the situation calmed, Emily sat at the kitchen table with a cup of warm tea and began to speak. Not to the cameras or the reporters waiting outside, but to Jerome and his boys. She explained how her stepmother had been hurting her behind closed doors, how her father was always away on business, blind to the emotional and physical torment she endured. She tried to tell someone before, but no one listened to so she ran. "I didn't want money," she said quietly. "I didn't want bodyguards or big houses. I just wanted to feel safe." Jerome listened without interrupting. He felt a quiet anger building inside him, not because of who she was, but because of what she'd suffered. Why the next day, news vans lined the street. Cameras zoomed in from across the sidewalk. Headlines exploded online. Local mechanic gives shelter to billionaire heiress, kindness in Detroit. The stranger who protected Emily Whitmore. But Jerome didn't care that he didn't answer interviews, didn't open the door to anyone else. His only focus was Emily. That she was fed, that she slept, that she smiled. Because for Jerome, fame didn't matter. Human kindness did. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us of the goodness still left in this world. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next one. Thanks for watching. And remember, one act of kindness can change a life forever.